Checking if I'm live on YouTube as well. Yes. Hopefully both Facebook and YouTube are recording. Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back in another video. I was going to say I just came back from the gym, but that was actually about half an hour ago. I've been procrastinating, drinking tea. My mate was talking to me, I had to feed the cat and stuff like that. So, anyway, welcome to the fourth and final part of my plans for supporting and empowering black people around the world on Wednesdays. I think, I don't want to speak too soon, but I'm kind of ahead of schedule for once. I kind of was earlier as well. If I didn't procrastinate, I'd be even more ahead of schedule. And I was thinking maybe after my shower, I'll do part one of my plans for Thursday if I can early. So I'll be ahead of schedule for once instead of behind schedule. I think some people say dyslexic people are either ahead of schedule or behind schedule. Yeah, we're either too early or too late or whatever. But anyway, it is what it is, as I say. But I sometimes jokingly say I'm dyslexic, I need extra time. And before I get on to the final part of my list, as per usual, I want to talk about the list itself. The last part of the list, I want to talk about what I hope to achieve in the future, as I normally do for part 4. I do like to mix it up now and again, but for now, I'm just going to stick to what I hope to achieve in the future. But I wanted to say, like, something I was thinking about recently. I thought if I was more independent and confident and all that kind of stuff, I was independent, positive, confident, an optimist or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. I believed in myself at least and whatnot, and that kind of thing. And basically was just a positive person in spite of the economy, or saw that, like Robert Kiyosaki, I have to mention, said that, I have to mention Robert Kiyosaki, and he said, when there's a recession, it's the best time for some people to make money. Most people lose out on money. They go to school and they don't know the economy, and they need jobs, they rely on jobs, and unfortunately for them, it is bad, and for most people, including those without jobs, obviously, and those who, I mean, I'm not saying, if you Skype school, I'm sure, obviously, you don't go to school at all, and you don't learn about money, it's not that good, but if you learn from someone about money, I mean, you could probably never go to school and still be really financially successful or whatever. But yeah, if I believed in myself, where there's a recession and where there's AI and people losing their jobs, on the other side of things, there's an opportunity. So for other people, for the majority, it's going downhill. Unfortunately, I feel bad because I don't want to take other people suffering at all, unless they're like Hitler or something like that, or Bin Laden or something like that. But even then, I'd rather them just be good people. But unless they're a neo-Nazi or an Islamic extremist or just an extreme or hateful person, an abusive person or whatever, other than those, I want to see everyone do well. I was going to say, that reminds me, actually, I hope everyone's families and everything's doing well. But yeah, for most people, I think, unfortunately, obviously, nothing to do with me as such, like I don't make the rules or whatever, but even Robert Kiyosaki says, like, again, going back to that guy, he says that you can hate capitalism, you can hate me or whatever, I don't make the rules, he says. Yeah, for most people, I think it's going to go bad, and I mean, someone in the gym, my mate in the gym, said that someone he knows has 4 jobs, and he thinks there's plenty of jobs out there. And he says AI is just an excuse. He goes, if you see these areas, they've all got jobs. Like these areas are all employing people. He goes, like this garage, they're employing people. They're employing mechanics or whatever. And he said this guy's got 4 jobs, and he works about 100 hours a week altogether. Barely needs any sleep. But I was thinking, like, why wouldn't he just go into business if he has that kind of work ethic and that energy? But anywho, I suppose each of their own, as I say. But I'm going to say this actually in the video, in the list itself, because I'm behind schedule. So I'm going to complete that sentence about what I would do if I believed in myself and that kind of thing. So point number 31, as I say, with AI, there's an opportunity in the other end, because it's people who learn how to use it will make the most money. And that kind of thing, as it replaces other people's jobs and takes their salaries and things like that. The other thing is, just as a crash coming down for most people, unfortunately, it means things are cheaper, like Robert Kiyosaki says. So there's opportunities for those who learn about how money works and that kind of thing. I myself am not that materialistic. I know I normally say that, but I'm just thinking for other people. But if I believed in myself and I was entrepreneurial, and I suppose if I was prepared to put the work in, and I was, again, entrepreneurial, which is about risk taking, I'd probably be very nervous, but just like when I used to work at a place called Stay Bright Windows, I was very nervous. When I used to work at a place called Leicester Dyes, when I used to grow up in Leicester, I was very nervous there as well. In a place called Abbey Lane in Leicester, I was very nervous when I worked there. That terrible word called work. That word called work. But part of me would think, rather than working for someone else, why not work in a business? I call it working for the customer, being paid by the customer. Because otherwise, if it was working for myself, I'd do what I want and pay myself like $1 trillion or £1 trillion and give it away. But obviously, you've got to get that money from somewhere. So when they say paying yourself, the way I see it is the customer is the boss. It makes sense to look after them, just like you wouldn't treat your boss badly, I would assume. When they're paying your wages, but yeah, I'd go to Dubai. Basically, I've overcomplicated the way of saying that. I would take a flight to Dubai if I was independent. If I was independent, optimistic, hardworking, positive, and I believed in myself, had that self belief and all that kind of thing. I mean, that's a place where so many entrepreneurs go, and it's not that I'm paid by them by commission or anything, but honestly, isn't it? Like so many entrepreneurs are there. I think it's a business friendly environment. There's lower taxes. I think other nations, I'd love to see Malaysia do that, and India, Indonesia, Singapore, especially South African places like that. Because Malaysia, because I want to say thanks to them for looking after my fellow Eurasians. If there's three nations in the world, I'd thank Malaysia would be one. India would probably be the biggest one, and Singapore would be the third. Malaysia and Singapore would be about the same, but I put it in that order because it's like M.I.S. and it starts with M and M's in S, just like my weird thing about my patterns with like my initials and all that kind of thing, M.K.S, but in this case it'd be M.I.S. So India would be the top one because they looked after my people, Anglo-Indians, and they like gave us seats in Parliament and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, Modi's took them away, but those seats and rights and whatever. But it's not the whole country's fault, although they did elect him. But historically, they have looked after Anglo-Indians. They didn't kick us out of the country and things like that. They gave us our own places, whereas other countries discriminated against us or didn't want us in their country or whatever. So yeah, Malaysia, India, especially in particular, and also Singapore, the three nations I would thank. Also, Singapore's first founder was a dyslexic chap, so they have a big dyslexia thing as well as the Eurasian thing. So I suppose it would be India, Singapore, and then Malaysia. Those, if I was going to put it in order, but it's because of my use of patterns and like alliterations and acronyms and like that, starting with M and ending in S, it would be M, Malaysia, India, and Singapore. But yeah, I think they should offer tax cuts and things like that, and have business events and networks, similar with South Africa because they went to apartheid. But yeah, maybe tomorrow, because it's the 27th, and due to my patterns, I hope to talk more about nations I wish to thank and people and nations and groups I wish to thank and whatnot. But yeah, jumping ahead of myself. But yeah, if I was entrepreneurial, as I say, even if I was I'd probably be nervous before I got on the plane. I'd be nervous on the plane. I'd be nervous when I get there. I think like, what am I giving up? What am I doing? And it would be sad to leave my friends behind and all that kind of thing. But again, if I was entrepreneurial, and I'm sure that's what a lot of entrepreneurial people are already doing, but if I believed in myself and all that kind of thing, it would be cool if they hosted neurodivergent events to see what neurodivergent people could do, and neurodivergent people meeting entrepreneurs. Many others would be neurodivergent as well. Also entrepreneurs more generally in Dubai. But another place I'd probably go to in terms of, as someone who's not that patriotic, but another place I'd love to go to would be somewhere like South Africa because they went through apartheid, and I'd love for them to host lots of events, like anti-racism events and things like anti-apartheid events, pro-diversity events and things like that. But moving on to number 32, and they said point number 12, then my brain's not working. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm talking about myself, but for the black community, then maybe that's something that they could think about. Like maybe, I mean, some of these countries can be a lot more racist, and I don't know how Dubai is with the black community. But it is somewhere maybe they could look into and say, yeah, we want to see what we could do. And I'm not sure about native people from across America. Maybe the Americans, maybe they could network with Dubai, and it would turn towards a mutual benefit. But with neurodivergent people, as I say, I'd love for neurodivergent people to go to Dubai and sort of meet up with entrepreneurs there. I think it's a sort of very, as I say, a very pro-business place. It seems to be with low taxes. So many wealthy people are moving there. And I'm sure they have networking opportunities for if you go where the money is and that kind of thing. I want to talk about robotics and AI and that kind of thing as I've been doing, but I'll talk about that tomorrow, like Tech Tuesdays and that Thursday, sorry, and that kind of thing. But yeah, maybe it's something for the black diaspora to look into and see. Okay, what are the experiences of black people there? I mean, maybe Dubai is a bit too racist. Maybe if many black people go there and talk to the leaders there, they can sort of say, we want to come and show how entrepreneurial we can be and show what we can do. Another thing is maybe the black diaspora could go to South Africa and host events and network with each other. And I've sort of briefly covered that before, but I would say normally in part 4, I like to think about putting into practice what I talk about, especially in parts 1, 2, and 3, or just generally my ideas. But yeah, maybe they could show what they could do and show the world and prove any haters wrong. Go to South Africa, which went through apartheid. I'd love for Central Africa, South Africa, and even places like Nigeria and the rest of Africa to host events for the black diaspora to show what they can do and prove haters wrong. Those who call them lazy, thick, and all the other names that people might call them. Those haters that people hate on black people, that they can show them wrong, prove them wrong, and that kind of thing. Also, I talk about like building wealth together, like the black diaspora build wealth together. Again, similar could be for native people from across the Americas and my fellow neurodivergent people and POC generally as well. Number 33, on the subject of POC, I know I mentioned about the black diaspora, and I talked about that. Well, the topic of the video is, and these videos are about black empowerment this week, but also I mentioned that it would be for other POC as well, people of colour to come together. And again, South Africa, I'd love for South Africa to host lots of events for not just black people, but also POC generally, and even white people who are against racism. Just making sure that they won't be infiltrated. But people who are against white supremacy, neo-nationalism, I use these terms interchangeably. Maybe I do so erroneously, i.e. wrongly, but I use terms like white supremacists, neo-Nazis, the far right, extreme right, and groups like that interchangeably. I don't mean people like Nigel Farage, or necessarily, some people might see him as far right. I don't know if he is far right or not. I don't think he is, but I mean people who just hate like anyone who's not white or whatever. But because of apartheid, I think it would be good for South Africa to symbolically invite POC to benefit each other, like learn from each other, and hopefully all possible POC around the world will benefit from such ideally, just as I hope it will benefit South Africa. And Central Africa, I would love to host symbolically, because it's in the centre of Africa and that kind of thing. And they've gone through like a brutal civil war between. So because it's the centre of Africa, and the name Central Africa as well, the name of it as well, specifically, and the fact they went through and they've been through and sometimes still go through like a civil war between different, I think sometimes between different tribal groups, but also between Christians and Muslims, just like happens in Nigeria and other parts of Africa. If they could put their tribal and religious differences aside and learn from Rwanda, I think that'd be pretty cool. And also talking about loss of liberty, they could host anti-slavery events, pro-black events, pro-black unity events, the worldwide black diaspora. Again, symbolically, they could show like we're going to put our differences aside, our religious and tribal differences, and put like Africa and blackness first, and that kind of thing, maybe, ideally. Then they could talk about making up for history and that kind of thing. Number 34, I also think of like Nigeria and Niger for, I had to explain this as carefully as possible so people don't misunderstand me, but I talked about like wanting to support the black diaspora because of like making up for the N-word and other racial slurs people called, and all the different types of variations and different racial slurs they've been called, which is one reason why I want to support them in November. But they could turn it from a negative to a positive. So they could say, because we're called the N-word and the rest of the world sees us as, they don't see different African countries like through different tribes or religions or whatever, they just see them as black and that kind of thing. I think they could use that to sort of say we're going to come together and unite, again putting our religious and tribal differences aside and working together for the benefit of each other with my quirky kind of thing. So I was thinking like almost like a reparations, or technically a reparations for the N-word, Nigeria and Niger, or however you pronounce it, to host those events and that kind of thing symbolically. But also Central Africa, because it's a centre again, and South Africa because they went to apartheid, but also all of Africa really, especially what they call Black Africa, I guess, but even like just Africa generally, looking at the what they have in common. Like even with the Arabs, they say like people call them sand, and then followed by the N word and that kind of thing. So they could say we could put that our differences aside and use people's hate to make a positive by coming together. Um, number 35, I did talk about supporting black people with their ambitions. Number 36, I dream. I suppose in my bucket list, if you like, part of it, or basically what I would love for my legacy, or better still, perhaps life purpose to be. I would love to somehow convince and encourage like the black diaspora, as well as like native people from across the Americas and neurodivergent people, and maybe even POC generally somehow. I love for Italy, basically, town football, I know I pretty much always say that one, to come together against racism and improve relations with the rest of the world through football. Another one of my weird, quirky ideas, to be fair, to say that to see what they could do to improve football and improve relations. Excuse me, between for football, and I think in words something with W, world class Wednesdays. I'd love to see Italian football become world class again, from a selfish point of view. Number 37, similar with Celtic. Again, what I talked about in parts 1, 2, and 3, I hope to put them into practice. Number 38, I dream they'll get. Also, actually, sorry, before I move on, I forgot to say as well for point number 37, as I say, many hands make light work and many minds make light work. So putting their heads together, putting their ideas together, putting their brains together. People say pick their brains. I don't know what that means. When people say I went to this event and I picked someone's brain, what does that mean? I kind of know what it means, but where does that term come from? But I know I say one quite a lot of time, but like killing two birds with one stone, feeding two birds with one scone, I think some people say, or whatever. There's different things on that, but achieving many outcomes or goals or whatever with one or two sort of actions, putting them together. So I think like my love for Italian football and my desire to support Africa in tech and support Africa and Asia economically. And so I thought like a partnership between Italy, India, and South Africa. So that would ideally benefit Italy in terms of footy specifically, India financially, and South Africa in terms of tech or whatever, and their economy, but especially tech, or even STEM generally. So fundraise maybe through football matches, even in that case between Italy, India, and South Africa. India and South Africa could work together in like practicing in cricket, but fundraise also through that, like televise it and fundraise for those events. I suppose I'm going off on tangents and maybe overcomplicating things, but basically fundraisers through, they could do cricket, but I wouldn't want the Italians to play cricket because I only want them to focus on football and making Italian football the best again. But I mentioned about how they can make life easier maybe by building AI, robots, and working on that kind of thing, apps. I'll say apps, AI, robots, robotics, all that kind of thing. Funding robotics across Africa. Maybe the AU could work on that. The Black Diaspora working together and sharing ideas on that and knowledge and whatnot. And I'd love to make ethical AI. I'd love to work on making, or at least share the idea to make ethical AI. And I wonder if they work together, they could make running businesses and building wealth, investing and things like that easier, sharing tips and ideas and whatnot, as long as they can build a trusted network where they support each other. Maybe even discussing, like in South Africa, maybe South Africa could host those events where their network would discuss what are the best things they can invest in, which are going to be almost guaranteed, hopefully, to make investments. If they can guarantee it easily, that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I wonder if, like, I often say, like, I wonder if you could just put money into an investment and like it's easy work. That feels really cool and sexy. But so yeah, I probably won't work on them myself because I'm not very good with my hands. But I think we need to build ethical AI that should do all our, I really want to say the word, our Unity jobs. SHITTY jobs. Sometimes I say SHITs, SHITSs or whatever. But I don't mean that in that way. I mean like all the rubbishy jobs, shall we say, to put it politely. I don't know if I can say the word. I'm going to say it anyway. All the crappy jobs, basically crappy jobs like cleaning, especially cleaning toilets and all these sorts of horrible jobs, getting your hands dirty or whatever. Now, things like gardening, for instance, I don't like gardening. Some people probably don't. Some other people probably don't like it, especially if they have a condition like dyspraxia, like I have. But some people, including dyspraxics, might actually like gardening, so they would be at least you would have that option. So I don't think it should be that it should take our jobs in a negative way. I think it should take our jobs to free us up to do things we actually want to do. So it doesn't mean we don't work on things we want to do, or we get bored, or we lack a purpose. Our purpose could still be to help other people, to feed other people, and do good things in the world. But it will just free us up to do that. But I do have my doubts and fears about AI. But I think what we need to do is get more ethical people to build ethical AI. My dream. But I'm just putting out there what's in my mind, and my ideal situation, my ideal dreams, and that kind of ideals are basically that kind of thing. I did say earlier that I'm pretty much ahead of schedule, but it's already midnight here and I need to go for my shower. But anyway, number 38, I wish they could get free loving from white women. Number 39, ideally I would have achieved a lot of these things a long time ago, but yeah, just putting ideas out there. I'd love to know what you think, as ever. I'm hoping I didn't forget anything, but yeah, investing together, working on things together, making life nice and easy. And number 40. So yeah, I know it's a very. I hope people don't misunderstand what I'm saying. As usual, that's one thing I worry about. It's a usual thing I worry about whether I bore people. I'm sure they misunderstand me. I do have a funny way of explaining things, a weird sort of way. But it's like a compensation for the different. There's even like 2 or 3 different racial slurs that like N words that people use, and to compensate for that sort of thing, and by supporting the black community and their works, and helping them to build wealth, and like companies like NatWest and Barclays could, and other banks and businesses could set up in places like Nigeria, Niger, South Africa, Central Africa, and places like across Africa really, and help to build wealth, support businesses, support people to get in banking, finances, and all that kind of thing, work on empowering their finances. But yeah, as I said at the beginning of the video, the intro went on a bit too long, which I'll try and get to the point, I promise. But yeah, I was thinking like if I had a spine and I believed in myself enough, if I was optimistic and positive enough, yeah, I'd be nervous, and people, I know the naysayers would say, no, you can't do it. And part of me would think like, and some people might say, what about if you pay for your train ticket, plane ticket, plane ticket, or train and plane, and you travel and you spend that time and money to go there, and what if it didn't work out? But I suppose it's a risk, and you could have less regrets as you get older and on your deathbed, sorry for the morbidity. But yeah, if I was more entrepreneurial, I'd probably go to Dubai. But with the black diaspora, I suppose I look like an Arab as well, I guess. But even then, they might discriminate against people. Like apparently, some of these Arab nations like kicked out Indian and Pakistani people, like the other Asians, and they didn't. They kept the white people, but I mean, not saying they should have kicked anyone out, but someone was saying it was really sad how people built their wealth, just like people did in Uganda and other places. Like, and they said it's sad, like they had big houses and they worked really hard, and it's so sad that they got kicked out and lost everything. But yeah, I think they should. If you're going to go to a new place, you probably want to research it and say like, what is it like to live there? What are the experiences of black people there? And but yeah, if they find that they can go there as a group and maybe work in a group and talk to the ministers there and talk to businesses there and network and show what black people can achieve and prove the haters and doubters and haters wrong, that could be cool. Again, maybe native people from across America to network with Dubai and places like that, but also neurodivergent people. The reason why I mentioned Dubai, I suppose Saudi Arabia and other Arab nations could be similar, but I believe they are very pro-business. Well, people mention Dubai. I'm not sure why they don't mention Saudi in the same way. Saudi could be another one that could learn from Dubai, and they could be an up and coming country. Qatar could be another one. but I know they're said to not have as many human rights. But if you show you're entrepreneurial and you're there to build the country, sounds a bit too much like hard work to me. But maybe finding smart work ways to work. I love smart works instead of hard works. I wonder if smart work could ever replace hard work. But yeah, I know I mentioned it when you were 30 about polar mints and that. I think that reminds me of my horse. On that bombshell, I'm out and peace and love. I hope that made as much sense.